Have you ever wondered what some of the biggest people in the world, Oprah Winfrey, Deepak Chopra, all of the people do first thing in the morning to make them successful? Well, today we are diving in.
Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Welcome to Hope, Healing, and Transformation. My name's Lisa Williams, and today we are going to start looking at what some of the most successful people in the world do first thing in the morning. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I'm going to ask you this. What is it that you do first thing in the morning when you wake up? Personally, I used to sit and grab this phone here and I would scroll, doom scroll. I would scroll my emails. I would scroll the big book of faces. I would scroll everything, read some text messages. But I also realized that what I was doing was diving head first into chaos. That was not good for me. And then I decided to turn things around. So one of the things I want to ask you is, why do you not pause? Why do you not breathe? Why do you not connect to yourself first thing in the morning? What starts pulling at you right in the morning that you need to really start looking at your phone? And I'm going to tell you sometimes, and Joe Dispenza talks about it, if we start our day the same way that we started yesterday and the day before, what we're doing is we're just reliving yesterday today. And therefore, we're not really growing. And that's actually a very interesting concept. So I've spent the last almost 65 days changing that habit. And I will tell you, it has changed my life. So I'm here to share with you some of the truths that happened, some of the aha moments that I had, and also how easy, but also how difficult it was. So let's dive in first. Here's the truth. Every morning we wake up at this, crossroads. We wake up with decisions. We can either anchor ourselves into who we are, or we can let our ego, our mind, our to-do list to drive us forward. And trust me, when the ego is driving, all right, I'm going to tell you, it's heading me straight into this desk, straight into to-do lists, and actually a little bit into burnout. And so I started to understand that my mornings were sacred, not because they were quiet, not because I wanted that breath. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, what do you mean? You've already been breathing. You've already been doing the work. But no, my mind had been clearing out the neurochemicals every single night. I just hadn't had the time for myself. And because I'm going to bed with, stress or a variety of other things, potentially, and I was last night because I was planning a trip that I'm doing. But what I was actually doing is I'm waking up with that same thought that I'm going to bed with. And last night was, have I booked all my trip in Norway? So when we look at this quiet, science backs this up. Now let's talk about the brain. The brain is in a theta and delta state right after you wake up, which is one of the reasons why I love doing readings first thing in the morning, is because I'm in that alpha state, which is the state where intuition and creativity are blown wide open. Our cortisol levels are naturally high, which means if we don't take the reins and we don't start controlling our life wherever we want to go first thing in the morning, our stress starts to run our being, our life, our show, the show, how I show up. And so even before we've had any form of coffee and actually I don't drink coffee first thing in the morning, I always drink water, and I always have my water, and it's, I have this water and I drink it, and I drink a full glass of water. But what we need to do is we need to allow our stress to be taken charge of. So we need to naturally take our charge, our mind, and take it somewhere else. But there's a spiritual component of what I realized is the morning was the time of the day where I met who I was unfiltered. I didn't have to be lisawilliams.com. I didn't have to answer an email. I didn't have to go on Facebook. I didn't have to do any social media. It was before anybody else's needs. Now, before we start the whole argument of, well, I have kids, I have a job, I have a husband, I have this, I have that. I get it. I absolutely get it. And before we go down that path, I have to tell you, I started to get up an hour earlier. That for me was a little bit difficult because I love my sleep and I'm a little bit of a night owl. So even though I'm a night owl, what I also found was I went to bed earlier. So I had to change my routine, okay? And adjusting it in my circadian rhythm, I use an app. Right now it's called Rise or Sleep Rise or Rise Sleep. Anyway, I'll put the link down in the show notes. But before I went into anything, I had to adjust my little sleeping patterns. And it took me a while. It took me a few days to get myself into a little bit of a routine. But I realized that these mornings were my gateway to who I really am before the whole world dictates who you need to be. Before you need to be a mum, before you need to be someone's spouse, before you need to be a child, a daughter, a son, whoever you are, before you become who you think you need to be. So this is not just about me saying it. There are some very well-known leaders and creatives out there who have sworn by their spiritual morning routine. So let's talk about Oprah Winfrey. Now, Oprah, I met, oh my gosh, back in probably 2007 when I was on her show. And I will share with you, she walked into her office. I was leaving the building around 4 a.m. because I had done a ghost hunt of Harpo Studios. Well, this was an interesting concept. It was never shown. It was never aired. And for whatever reason, that was it. However, she walked in at 4 a.m. and I had no idea that was it. And I saw the real Oprah. I saw the real Oprah without the hair, without the makeup. She was in her pajamas. She was coming in. And I'm going to tell you, she starts her morning with prayer, meditation, gratitude journaling. And she actually talks about how it sets her to live in this intentional space and not reactive. And I will be honest, the Oprah that I met first thing in the morning was this, and I'm not saying anything about Oprah in any other light, but she was very kind. She was happy. She was interested in what we were doing. And it wasn't the big face of Oprah, it was just who she was. And so when we set our life up in this intention and not reaction, it changes everything. Now, Deepak Chopra, he talks about how he aligns his body and spirit at sunrise with yoga and meditation. And he resets like this. It's totally sacred. And so when we're doing that, again, we look at meditation, we look at yoga, we look at breath work, which leads me on to the next person, Tony Robbins. No matter what you think of Tony Robbins, okay, he is a mastermind, okay? If we look at what he has done over the last several decades, he does a thing called priming, and it's part of a breath work, part of a movement, part of visualization. He literally shifts his whole physical body. And what he does, his whole psychology, his whole being, his whole energy before he even starts his day. And I have seen people who follow Tony Robbins actually follow his complete routine. And I've seen it, and I've seen them do it. I've seen themselves hype themselves up. And then we have, this is, I just love this, Ariana Huffington. Okay, so when we look at this, she swears by a cell phone free or phone free morning. She meditates, she grounds herself. She doesn't let technology hijack before breakfast. And so I'm going to show, those are just 4 here. There's 2 others, which I think are, again, we're talking, well, I think there's 3 others that we're talking big people, well-known people who have all started their day in a certain way. Michelle Obama, even when she was in the White House, prayer and movement were a non-negotiable. Imagine the amount of pressure that woman had on her shoulders. You know, even when she knew that she had to go into the world and pour into the world, she couldn't do it without pouring into herself first. That just screams it. Now, some of you might be sitting here, and I get it, because you might have a skeptical mind and be saying, well, she had a number of staff. She was able to do this. She was able to do that. Understandably. But there is a point that we have to pour into ourselves. Steve Jobs asked himself one question every morning. If this were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? That's a big question. That is this gut check, this connection to, am I fulfilling my purpose? Am I doing what I want to do? And Lady Gaga even sets intentions every day to call in this creativity and treats her mornings as sacred, this sacred ground to birth her music, her art. So what I'm saying here is this isn't just, oh, woo-woo. This is a pattern. These are some world leaders, creative people, spiritual leaders, all start their day connecting inward before they even can give outward. I actually did that. And I have done that now for the last 60 something days. I used to do it and I did it sporadically. And then I made a point to do it. Before my husband starts saying to me, hey, I need this, before I get up and go on a bike ride, or before I get up and start answering emails, before I answer a text message from my kids, before anything, I will absolutely focus on this. And I've started to realize my pattern and what I need. And I found that it was really important. So I'll talk about it from my point of view. And then we'll come into what athletes do, and we'll come into all of this stuff, because I think it's so important that little old Lisa here, sitting in Lilydale as I am, and I'll soon be back in Florida, I took this opportunity to really see how it's going to change my life. And I'll be honest with you, it changed it. First thing I like to do is read. I don't want to do meditation because I want to be inspired. Because if I do meditation, I'm likely to maybe doze back off. So I get up, I do my thing, and then I like to read. And I read a book that I'm interested in. I'm not going to read a novel. I'm going to read a book that is going to help me grow. I'm not going to do anything to do with my work. So I'm not going to read any book on spirituality. I'm going to read a book that gives me this incentive that gives me something that I'm aiming for, whether it's about business. So a lot of my books are about business because I'm an entrepreneur. So I dive into that, and I set a timer because I can get so into my book, but I set a timer, and then I might journal on that. And at that point, I actually dive into my journaling. And as I dive into my journaling, I start realizing what it is that I want to create. Now, it's at that point that I know that if I can harness that energy, because that's what I'm doing, is I'm harnessing the energy of what I create, and I'm harnessing my my thoughts around that book. And it's not always what that book says is right. It's given me the opportunity to think creatively. I will then journal about it. And then at that point, I can do the 3 parts that I think are very, very easy to do for me. And that is, then I can meditate, then I can visualize, and I can do my affirmations. And sometimes I will do my affirmations here. I have positive affirmations right in front of me, and I can say these at any time. Or I can do it while I'm cleaning my teeth, or yesterday I did it while I was in the shower. But at that point, my affirmations are normally the last thing I do. And then I go into this meditation. Now, the meditation itself, for me, is really about connecting into the deeper part of the spiritual being, the deeper connection. And it's about being with myself. Because there are times that I will connect in. There are times that I will feel connected into the being that I am. And as I step into this being and as I step into this space, I'm really truly connecting with me. Not any thoughts of what I should be, but me. And then I can do some visualization. Now, I like to do, I'm trained in brain spotting. So I've studied brain spotting, and I'm going through these training courses. And so we do something called gaze spotting. And this gaze spotting is where I can bring in a feeling that I want. So I want to start visualizing my life. And then as I start visualizing my life, what I want based upon what I've written about, what I've read, what I've meditated on, I will bring that moment into me. I will bring that energy so deeply into me that then I take my gaze to a point that it then hits me and it really starts becoming a little bit more intense within my body. And I start to visualize it, and I stare at this point. And often my point is over onto my right hand side, and I stare at this point, and I am just visualizing, and I'm allowing the vision to come. But it becomes this whole physiological thing because my whole body is feeling it. And this is the thing, guys. If we want to start manifesting, if we want to start bringing this in, we actually want to start feeling our emotions, feeling the thoughts, feeling the body sensations, smelling it, tasting it, feeling it, knowing it, having the body experience it before it's actually happened. And at that point, what I'm doing is I'm having that whole physical body sensation and then I'm putting it out into the universe again. And that's when I then do the affirmations based on my visualization. And those affirmations can change. Sometimes I'll tap with it. You've probably seen me do the tapping, which actually calms the whole body, the whole nervous system down. But this is so powerful. And my friends, it takes me maybe 30 to 40 minutes. It can take me it can be as quick as 10 minutes if I'm getting up and going on an early morning flight. Sometimes I have been known to do exercise, and I'll do jumping jacks, or I'll march on the spot, or I'll punch. I will do this even when I'm doing my affirmations. So I'm moving my body. I'm getting my body to move, which allows the cortisol to sort of like start dissipating and everything. So it's a powerful routine. Now, this is what I do. But let's talk about if I skip this, or let's talk about what happens if we skip any form of routine. And as I mentioned, let's talk about athletes. The NFL, we're talking about baseball, we're talking about swimmers. I'll talk about even Charlie. He's an MMA instructor, and I've seen him do this pre-match or pre-fight. I hate calling it a fight, but it is this pre-fight ritual. And he's there, and he's talking directly into the eyes of his fighter, and he is talking directly, and he's getting them to lock eyes, and he's getting them to connect. And there's a deep sense. There's this deeply. It's amazing, and it's pre-game rituals. And if they skip these, they lose focus. The same things happen in every single day of our life. So when we roll out of our bed and we grab our phone and we go to the meetings and we go and do our to-do list, and we don't start the day in that creative space, what we do is we start reacting to how life is rather than creating the life that you want. Let me repeat that. If we start the day like that, we start our day in reactive space, reacting to situations rather than creating the life that we want. I'm going to ask you, what is it that you want? Some of you might want more money. Some of you might want more time. Some of you might want more health. Some of you might want more spirituality. Some of you might want to create a relationship. All of which are possible when you start looking creatively rather than reacting to what is coming at you. I didn't think that was possible. And truly, many years ago now, I did that with relationships. I created what I wanted. I found the person and I attracted it. And the thing is, when we are in a reaction space and when we're reacting to what is coming up to us, like we're reacting to an email or we're reacting to a text message or we're reacting to a person coming at us at the coffee shop with their issues, we're not in control anymore. We're not. The life is, or other people's needs are. You're forgetting yourself. And this is where your spirit kind of gets pushed to the side. Your ego takes over. And when your ego drives the bus, well, I'm going to say, get ready for the ride, because sometimes it's not always easy. So let's talk about it. I've just explained my thing that I do in the morning. And it doesn't always go in that way because it's what I like to do. It doesn't always happen that way. And the reason why is because I have Joe Dispenza in my head saying that if we start the day doing the same things in the same way as the day before, we're starting yesterday in today. And so there are times that I might journal first, or I might do the meditation, or I might get up and do the exercise first. But what this is it's a routine that is structure, and our brains need structure. It's going to keep you safe. And this ritual that we are doing in our life, and you don't have to do all of them. I just choose to do 5, maybe exercise. It's a little bit, challenging. Although this morning I did my marching on the spot and I did my punches and I got my body moving. I don't have to go to the gym, or I can do a 7-minute workout on my yoga mat, or there's a variety of different things that I choose to do. It is a routine that is sacred. It's my sacred intention every single day. I don't have to meditate for an hour because trust me, that's never going to happen. And you don't need that to be spiritual. Let's just put that into perspective. You don't need to do that to be spiritual. You don't need to sort of lie in Shavasana on a yoga mat or be in, warrior 1 and warrior 2 or anything. You don't need these incense or these crystals that we have lying around us everywhere. We don't need this. And it doesn't have to be Instagram worthy. Trust me, it isn't. It really is about being present. with yourself. Sometimes I will sit and I will grab this particular crystal. I grab this crystal, and what I do is, and it's a phantom quartz that a friend of mine bought me. Sometimes I'll hold this, sometimes I'll hold a variety of different other crystals. And what I will do is I will just breathe. Right, even if it's lighting a candle with I don't know, intention, or setting the intention, or having that moment that you can write in a journal while you're sipping your morning tea and allowing your breath to guide you. It's a ritual. It's taking the short walk and actually noticing the world around you without taking the dog, by the way. You're taking the walk. The dog is not taking you on the walk. You're taking the walk, and you're actually noticing the squirrels in the trees, the birds in the trees, the insects on the ground. You're noticing the world around you. You're noticing how the leaves rustle with the wind. This is ritual. And this is one of the things that I love to do. And I think in a past life, I probably had lost my sight at some point. But I am very, very visual. I like to see visual things that happen. And so I'm very present. I often think, what is it about this day that I would miss if I lost my sight? And so I take it in. When I was a child, I lost my hearing. So, and that was really powerful and really, so I know how precious your hearing is, but also the sight as well. And I remember when I had LASIX that I remember seeing this white light and thinking, oh my God, if I go blind now, wow, what would I miss? It was in a split second. Never forget it. And I was thinking, God, I would miss the sunsets. I would miss the sunrises. I would miss the birds in the trees. And it's the random things that you would miss. So take note of it. It's not about the length of time that you're doing these things. It's really about making that connection deep to you, that presence, that being. And I want you to just have a moment right now and start thinking about, what does my morning ritual look like? How does it look? Are you getting up with your phone? Are you getting up because the kids are dragging you out of the door? Are you waking up in the right state of mind? Are you getting up and hitting snooze? What I want you to do is start thinking about how you're waking up, because that's how you start your day. And let's go into this part of you. This is the deeper truth. And I had this moment as I was waking up this morning, and I was thinking about this. I was waking up thinking the morning is really for me about identity. And it started me off down a track, okay? And I'm just going to share this with you because, I'm all about sharing my truths and what's going on. Is those people who have done wrong in the world or have done very bad things in the world, every single morning they wake up with themselves. And the ego is going to take over and the cortisol takes over. And then there is a reactive space and a reaction to maybe past trauma that they have lived. But having spoken to several of these humans, okay, because I've been in and out and worked in and out of some correctional facilities and things like that. When I have worked with these humans and these people, a lot of them have said every single day they want to wake up different. And they have. Or they want to wake up with a different attitude. That tells me, and I remember being with one of them, and one of the things that they said was waking up in the morning was one of the hardest things because they had to face what they had done. And I remember it. And it was about identity. And so in the morning, we strip away the titles, the responsibility, what we've done, the noise, who we are. Before we're a spouse, a parent, a CEO, an entrepreneur, it's or a criminal. Before any of that, you're a soul. You are a soul. This morning ritual is a reminder that you are a soul first and this human second. And your role and what you do in life and who you're identified by, that label, comes third. So I think it's important that we recognize that. Eckhart Tolle, who did A New Day, and he really talks about being in presence and being at the beginning of consciousness. That presence starts before a thought. And that's what I think the morning gives us. It gives us a chance to return to your core before the world starts piling layers on top of you. It's really that person. So it goes into the identity of who we are in the core. Before our trauma, before our our bills, before our debts, before our riches, before our anything. It's that core being. It's that core sense. So here's what I would love you to do right now. I'm going to give you a journaling prompt. And as you journal what it is, I want you to ask yourself, who am I at the core? Not who am I because I've been abused, or I've got PTSD, or I've done wrong, or I've lost my job, or I am this and that and the other. Who am I at the core? What are the qualities that I am good at? What is my soul wanting to be seen as? Every time I do that, words just come up to me. I see myself as kindness and compassion. Those are the two things that I know deep in my core that I am. I'm exceptionally kind and I'm exceptionally compassionate. And those are my two things. So I'm going to ask you, what is it that you are in your core? And that's not my ego talking about being kind and compassionate. That's just who I know I am. I don't have to prove it to anybody. I don't have to say to you, this is who I am, because everything that I do, I try to show up and lead with that. So I'm going to encourage you to journal on this. And if you don't like journaling, I'm going to encourage you to sit with it and really sit with it. Who am I? Feel it. Just sit with it. Think about it. Allow the thoughts to come up. Allow these moments to come out. Allow them, maybe even just write one word here and there. Today's journaling was, I literally wrote bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. And I wrote it on my phone. I like to write it on a piece of paper, but I wrote it on my phone because I was getting myself ready and I was not in the position. I was like, and actually I was like, I'm going to do it right now. Boom, 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 boom. And I started to just type it all out. And then I created my affirmations around what those bullet points. Be creative with it. Really allow yourself to speak who you are, that core. What started me off on this journey was going to the biohacking conference I went with Karen Romine. She's a friend of mine. Some of you know her from the show. And I watched Hal Elrod, from the Miracle Morning talk. And I've done a lot of the work, and I realize a lot of the stuff that he talks about is everything that I have done. But in reality, he put it all into one space, and now I continue to do it. I continue to do it without fail. And I ask you in this moment, what is it that you are going to agree to? What is it that you are going to set your intention with? So tomorrow morning, or this morning, if you're listening to this first thing in the morning. But let's start tomorrow morning. I want you to try something different. Before you pick up the phone, before you let that world in, ask yourself, who am I at my core? And just choose one ritual, one thing to do. It might be a prayer, it might be journaling, it might be a sacred moment of breathing as you're looking outside. It might be you just saying, I'm getting up and I'm just going to, before, the day starts, I'm going to go for a walk and notice nature, and I'm just going to take it in. These morning rituals aren't about checking a spiritual to-do list. It's not about crystals, incense, having the right feather in your hair, or pulling out the right tarot card. It's got nothing to do with that. What it is it's about anchoring in this truest version of yourself, so that every choice you make, every conversation, every challenge that you face comes from your soul. That you are now no longer reacting, you are working from intention. Because your day, your mornings that are anchored in spirit, don't just change that day ahead of you, it can change your life. If you are struggling with any form of anxiety, depression, and you want to come out of that fog, please try this. It is going to change your life. And you'll never look back. Set your life up with intention. My name's Lisa Williams. You've been listening to Hope, Healing and Transformation. And let me know in the comments what you have decided to do in your life to help yourself. And let's stop reacting and let's start living.
Do you feel a whisper in the back of your mind, like the truth is waiting, but it's hard to find? Well, maybe there's magic in the words she brings. Close your eyes and listen in. Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.